At the beginning of the year, I found myself with a problem that many other gigging musicians, both here and across the world, seem to be encountering at this point, and that is venues not wanting any live sound on stage, but rather silent stages. I was not equipped for that. I'm somebody who has always bought a tube amp with me, whether it's my Dr. Z or my Fender Princeton, so it meant that I was going to have to change my workflow for these performances. In December, I committed to a newer piece of gear that had just been released, and I thought that's it. My solution is here. Now all I have to worry about is dialing in some tones, and I can just go out to getting paid and playing my gigs as normal. However, things didn't work out. We're not going to get into too many of the specifics of it, at least in this section of the video. I might reference them later. However, I found myself back at square one without a solution. I started looking around on my own for other digital alternatives, but admittedly, I'm not exactly the most first person when it comes to the digital gear. I'm more of a tube amp guy, as I stated earlier, and I was going to need some help. I reached out to Sweetwater. I let them know the exact situation that was going on, and I asked if they had any recommendations or things that they would present as ideas that could solve the problems that I was having. While I was waiting for a response and a potential recommendation from Sweetwater, I decided I was just going to browse their website and see what they had that could be a potential solution. And sure enough, there was one thing that really popped out at me for two different reasons. Number one, on that video that I previously made where I went over some of the problems that I was having, that I was still currently looking for a new solution that could be reliable, this was by far the most recommended device. And number two, I didn't realize that Sweetwater had exclusive versions of things that weren't just guitars. I was familiar with some of those. I've demoed them in the past, but I saw this in a different finish. It was white with gold anodized rotary knobs, and it just really, really jumped out at me. It was the Neural DSP Quad Cortex, and as fate would have it, the Quad Cortex is actually what Josh from Sweetwater recommended to solve this problem. At this point, I was fully on board. Sweetwater agreed to do a collaboration, and now all that's left is to take the new Quad Cortex and implement it into my pedal board so it works nicely with the other pedals that I already rely on. This is our starting point with the pedal board. I'm only highlighting this section to show you that the pedals that are non-negotiable for me, which are going to be these four: the Big Sky MX, the Volante, the Deluxe 61, and the Halcyon Blue Overdrive. We're going to be able to get rid of the Polytune Mini because we have a great tuner built into the Quad Cortex. And the PCH, I would like to keep, but it's not mandatory given the I/O of the Quad Cortex. One of the most important parts for any pedalboard build is making sure that you're getting clean, isolated power, and also the right amount of power depending on the actual device that you're using. For the Quad Cortex, it's not as simple as just plugging it into one of these 7 slots like we do with the DC7 into our traditional pedals, because it requires different power. But the way that this is going to be set up, just to make things a little bit more simple here, we're going to have one IEC cable coming in through here. That's going to power the main DC7. These 7 are not all going to be used. We're only going to be using 4 of them, I believe, for the pedals that I have dedicated to. And then this output right here is going to go right into Crux. Have this on 12 volts. This is going to plug right into the Quad Cortex, and we're done. So we're only going to have to worry about one connection going out from the pedal board itself to power the entire unit. That took a while, but we're all set up. Now that the rig is built, all that's left to do is to test it with my main gig and guitar, make sure it works, and make sure it feels right. I realize that was a pretty brief sound demonstration, especially considering Quad Cortex can do pretty much any sound under the sun, even without any of the external pedals that I'm using, but I'm going to save that for an entirely different video, and that'll be its own kind of adventure. To me, though, the main takeaway that I want you to have from this video, and the reason why I felt like this was an important thing to make, especially if you're in a position like I was where you depend on your gear. This is not a luxury purchase. This is something that you need so that you can go out and you can perform. When you buy something from Sweetwater, you get a peace of mind that I simply have not found anywhere else. If this were to have died the first day that I got it, I'd be on the phone with my rep and we'd have a solution immediately. There wouldn't be back and forth for 2 weeks and then still no resolution. And that's something that when you do buy elsewhere, sure, maybe you can save a few bucks in some instances, or, you know, maybe you can get it faster if potentially there's a wait time for it. But when it comes down to if you depend on gear, especially stuff like this, whether it is a digital modeler or something like a tube amplifier where things can happen with those too, Sweetwater are the only place that have consistently had my back in the past. It has been documented several times on this YouTube channel from other pieces of gear. And I know now that I can rest easy. Just if I have a problem, I call them. That's it. It'll get taken care of. It's one less thing to worry about. Thank you for watching this video, and thank you to Sweetwater for making this possible. I encourage you to visit them down below, and I hope that you check out the video where we do a full deep dive on the Quad Cortex, because I've already gotten quite a head start, and I'm really excited to show you some of the sounds that I've made.